Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Batch Dialer live webinar event. My name's Amy Waz. I am the product marketing manager here at Batch Service, and I'm joined here today by Ricky Fernandez with Caller ID Reputation. Ricky, you want to tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Amy. Super excited to be here as well. So yeah, I'm with Caller ID Reputation. Super excited to help organizations sort of optimize their phone channel efforts, increase contact rates, increase sales, connectivity overall. I've been in the space for 5+ years, working on different fronts, and just super excited to share some tips and tricks to help you guys increase your contact rates today.
Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. Today, here's a little bit of an overview of what we're going to learn today. We're going to take a look at the current state of cold calling, labeling, caller reputation. What can you do with your business to maintain good reputation for your phone numbers? What are the latest technologies available to you, behavioral best practices, and how you can really maximize your success with your business. To get started, we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the industry. You guys, this is a really cool statistic. We did a poll for some of our users, and they said that outbound cold calling is the number one marketing strategy that they're going to use in 2024. This is above SMS, above direct mail. Cold calling is so great because it offers human conversations, right? You're speaking with somebody, you're connecting with them on a completely different level, and therefore getting higher conversions, right? So VAs and call centers are also increasing in quality as this gets bigger and bigger. Digital marketing, right? You can spend so much time and money on digital marketing. This is so much less expensive, and it's much more targeted too. When you're talking about digital marketing, you can only do a really small section, but with cold calling, you're able to really pinpoint the people that are going to be most likely to use you and your services. There's low response rates for email and text. So this is a lot better when you have somebody calling you. You're going to get a lot higher rates for outbound cold calling. There's a lot of problems that people using our dialer are facing right now. Affordable high-speed internet is allowing robocallers to pummel consumers with scam calls, right? You've probably seen scam likely or spam likely on your phone. You know, it's just become a regular thing now, and it's kind of unfortunate. There are 60 billion robocalls per year in the US alone. It's bonkers. And at this point, carriers can't really distinguish between scams and legitimate calls. And I know that the feds are trying to do a lot of, things on the back end to try to distinguish what are the scams and what are the legitimate businesses. But, carriers are blocking or labeling anything that even remotely resembles robocalling. So when you're looking at your strategies and when you're building your campaigns, you need to be very, very, very careful that it doesn't resemble robocalling. And we'll get into some tips and tricks a little bit later on. A lot of consumers have little to no trust in the voice network. Nobody's answering their phones anymore. I certainly don't. You let it go to voicemail, you listen to the voicemail and decide whether you want to call them back, right? It's become a recurring problem. And today, Ricky and I are going to talk about how you can combat this within your business. So let's talk for a second about Stir Shaken. Stir Shaken was something that was implemented in June about 2 years ago. They were trying to stop spammers and scammers from reaching all of these people. They're trying to authenticate the legitimate business calls, and it's been really, really difficult. So they assigned A, B, and C attestations to a call.
It's a certificate, and essentially it carries with the number through the call path. And the idea is to also protect your numbers from spoofing. So spoofing is when your number's been hijacked and used by some nefarious party to defraud somebody. And so there really wasn't any kind of protocol to protect these phone numbers. So Stir Shaken, by the way, has been in the works for like 8 years finally being implemented, but it's something, right? And it's not 100% foolproof, but essentially what happens is your number provider, your OCN, provides an attestation. A is optimal, it's the best that you can get. B is acceptable. C, probably going to outpull some kind of warning label. And then no attestation is horrible because that could mean your call's not even ringing. It's a network block. So it is important to keep an eye on that and to ensure that you're receiving optimal attestation because it speaks to the brand integrity as well. But more importantly, it's to protect your phone number and consumers, right, from, spoofing or hijacking phone numbers. So it's something, it's not the foolproof mechanism, but it's something.
It's good enough. And I will mention that if you are a Batch Dialer customer, you do not need to worry. Any phone numbers that you purchase through Batch Dialer are already automatically a attestation phone numbers. So there will be no issues getting through to the people that you're, trying to call. All right, let's talk about why you should care, right? Negative call labeling. 40% of businesses are falsely labeled. That is a tremendous amount of businesses. And you may not even know unless you have a monitoring service like this. So it can impact you with decreased answer rates. Your brand integrity could be at risk. Like if you're a legitimate business and it's showing up as spam, that's not going to look too good on you, right? Consumer distrust, people are going to avoid you, increased likelihood of negative labeling, operating expenses increase, because if you're calling all of these people and they're seeing you pick up as spam and you don't know it, that's a tremendous amount of time and efficiency that you were just wasting. Agent burnout, right? They're not getting to the right people, so they have to keep dialing. High turnover and loss of revenue. These are all huge. 9% of people are likely to answer spam likely, which honestly seems like a high number to me. And then 27% of people will answer one that says unknown. Sometimes they'll pop up as spam or scam likely. Sometimes they'll pop up as unknown, or sometimes it'll just pop up as a phone number. But it's really, really important that you know the health of your phone numbers. So there's kind of a yin and yang situation here. You've got the first half is how can you use reputation protecting technology to make sure that your calls are going through to the right people. There are things that you can do as a business owner, behavioral best practices. So we're going to jump in a little bit and talk about the technology solutions first. So this is a breakdown of how your numbers get flagged as spam. And it's dynamic, right? There's not just one off, you get a flag, you have it taken down and you never get a flag again. You could get it the following day. And there are ways that you can combat that too. But, you've got carriers who rely on third-party call authenticators. You've got call authenticators themselves where humans will mark them as spam. The people that you're calling mark them as spam. It's all about your number behavior. How many people are you calling? What times are you calling them? Are you calling them back to back? And then consumer response. Are they blocking your phone number? Are they marking it as spam? Ricky, what am I missing?
No, that's a crowdsource element. So there's essentially three components to call analytic engines, right? It's algorithmic data combined with consumer response, sprinkled in with network signals and real-time signals, right? And that's like they're monitoring block rates and durations and things like that. And so each of these analytic engines have data models, right? Sometimes hundreds of them. And when you trigger based on whatever percentage they've set it at, this point and this point and this point, that's when a flag occurs, right? So ultimately the carrier are the ones that set that, but the analytic engines, companies like Haya, First Horion, TNS, right? So they have these different data models, and it's a fragmented space, right? So that's challenge number one, right? Why am I flagged on this network but not on this network? Again, completely data models. Then let's sprinkle into the mix. You have popular blocking apps like RoboKiller, NomoRobo, which again use a combination of algorithmic and crowdsourced data. I think they tend to rely a little heavier on the crowdsourced data, meaning if an app user doesn't like a call, they mark it that way, right? And then whatever the delegation is, that number is then either negative or positive in terms of the app users that see it. And then you have these aggregators, and they're just big giant data pools like Umail, TrueSpam, for example, IceHook. And they're looking at content and network signals to analyze your calls, right? Content meaning they're looking at, like they're listening to voicemails and analyzing calls through honeypots, right? And then network signals, again, looking at the carrier data and looking at the duration and block rates and how people are responding to the calls at that level, right? So it's all this combination, and it's a dynamic approach, right? So it's not static. I think, again, there's a misnomer, as Amy mentioned, that, once you get a flag removed, that's it, you're done, right? No, it's absolutely dynamic. So again, there's some things that you can do to improve things organically for longer term health that we'll share with you guys. But I think it's important to understand as best we can from the information we're able to extrapolate from this challenging space that we're navigating, is that we do know it's a dynamic approach. We do know that flags go on and off, and there's several reasons. We also know that the data models that are powering these algorithms are in the hundreds, right? And then we do know that there are thresholds that are set. So if you breach this, and this in combination, then a flag occurs. But I also want to make it really clear, what I like to prioritize on are the carriers. They own the last mile of the call, right? And they're the ones that can absolutely apply those labels. The Call blocking apps like NoMoRobo and RoboKiller, depending on the user and whatever permissions they've set, can also impact the screen, right? The aggregators are just collecting data and supplying that data, usually for compliance purposes, right? So they do not control the screen. Doesn't mean that you can't redress or remediate any issues that you have. It just means in terms of priority, I always like to focus on the carrier data first, because again, they control the screen at the last mile.
Well, I'm excited to show you guys a little bit about what this looks like in the platform. These are some technological pieces that are available to you and your business. This is what advanced phone number reputation looks like within Batch Dialer. So here down this line, down the number column, I've got all of my phone numbers. If I hover over any of these green shields here, this is what's going to pop up. It's going to tell me exactly how many are flagged, who is flagging them, and what each device looks like when I'm calling somebody. So I don't know if you can see this, but the AT&T one down here, it says, spam likely or something like that. You can see what people are seeing when you call them. So it's kind of not enough for you to call yourself using one of these phone numbers. You have to be able to see the whole picture. And this is kind of something that gives you that whole picture. One of the really cool things that Batch Dialer Advanced comes with is it comes with this service. So you get phone numbers included in your subscription and this reputation monitoring service. So it's kind of an all-in-one bundle. It's a super cool tool. We'll talk a little bit more about that and some of the tips and tricks that you can use right now to help you in your business. So kind of what I talked about just now, you get up to 60 attested phone numbers per agent per month in Batch Dialer Advanced. So that's like a $240 value just having those phone numbers there. You get the reputation flagging, so you can see what the attestation is essentially. Are your numbers healthy? Do they need to be cooled off? Or do they need to be replaced? Here's another really great thing: automatic phone number replacement. So if you have it on, essentially it's kind of a set it and forget it situation. You've got all 60 of your phone numbers, all of them are being automatically flagged, and then they're being replaced as they get flagged as spam. I think it's 3 to 5 spam flags. As soon as that shield turns yellow, it replaces it for you. So you don't need to be sitting there monitoring everything. You can pay close attention to those, cool them off in your own pool. But for people who have such high volume and really need to make as many calls and don't have the time and energy to spend doing this, automatic phone number replacement is absolutely for you. And then number and call behavior management. This is something that you can do on your end, rotating the numbers. You get the 60 phone numbers, and then you've got your own little pool, right? So if a number gets automatically replaced, you've already got one in your pool of phone numbers that can be replaced on that number. It's really, really cool. It limits risky calling behaviors and keeps your business reputation healthy. Let's take a quick look at what makes a good dialer. There's a lot of different components that I think most people are looking for in a dialer. You want everything. It's kind of soup to nuts, right? You want agent satisfaction. You want your agents to be able to use the product efficiently and have it be super intuitive. You want it to be compliant, right? You don't want to be doing anything illegal. Coaching. You want to be able to coach your agents on how to talk to your customers, making sure that it's on brand. Reporting. How are your campaigns performing? How are your calls performing? How are your agents performing? Reputation management, which we've talked quite a bit about. Speed. How quickly can I get to these contacts? Efficiency. It's kind of like all in one, right? The speed and the efficiency. And then integrations. What other apps are you working with that you can integrate into your dialer to make it super, super seamless? And Batch Dialer is something that has all of those things. So let's talk really quickly about call center operations and campaign behavior. So what are some things that you can do within your dialing system to get everything up to speed? The first is register your numbers. It's so important to register your numbers, because if you're getting flagged as spam or scam, if somebody's spoofing your number, like Ricky mentioned earlier, you can easily hop on, register your phone number with any of the carriers, and you can get favorable treatment. And you can do this as many times as you want. Let's move on to tip number 3. Calling behaviors. So what are your behaviors? What is your campaign behavior? What are your agents doing, right? Don't call people without consent, especially the do not call list. There is no quicker way to get your spams flagged and risk potential litigation and a $46,000 fine than calling the DNC.
You think
So
industry lawyers are bad? There are literally armies of lawyers out there just looking for these violations to go after that money. So yeah, it can be a very expensive, if not catastrophic error.
and the great news is Batch Dialer automatically removes all numbers on the DNC. That is federal DNC, and that is your personal DNC. So if you have a group of agents who've called a bunch of people and said, take me off your list, we will filter those out, which is really, really great. Do not call the same person multiple times in a short period. Ricky, I don't know if you have any statistics on how long it should be between calling different people.
I think TCPA allows for 6 attempts per day, but again, this is where I go back and say, think like a consumer. I think across the board on average, most, I think, successful calling parties limit to 2 attempts per day, maybe in the AM and then once again in the PM. But yeah, that could also lead. And again, just because TCPA allows for that many attempts doesn't mean the algorithms won't flag for it. So again, it's something that maybe you need to experiment with a little bit. But yeah, legally, you can make up to 6 attempts per day. But again, think about that.
Don't be aggressive on the phone, right? Your reputation's going to get just totally obliterated if you're aggressive to somebody on the phone. Don't use poor grammar or pronunciation. The great thing is that these VA agencies and agents in general have gotten so much better with grammar and pronunciation. So it's become a lot easier to be able to have those quality conversations. Don't use pre-recorded messages for anything other than notifications. And if you do need to, make sure that they're always high quality. Just make sure you're talking to a person. It's always better if you're talking to a person. And if you're leaving a personalized voicemail too, that's always better. Things to do: remove or cool off your flagged numbers. We're going to just beat it to death, right? Check your phone numbers against the FTC database. Use agents with good grammar and pronunciation. We already covered that. Things are getting so much better with these VAs. Last slide is valid callback numbers, right? You need to have a valid callback number, because if somebody calls you back and it's disconnected or a number that doesn't accept ringbacks, it's going to just scream, I'm a bad person, block me. It's used by scammers all the time. They just do not care about their reputation. They'll burn through phone numbers as quickly as they can. But for legitimate businesses like yours, it's going to be so much better to have that two-way connection. We're going to go ahead and open it up to Q&A. The first question is, how much is Batch Dialer? It depends on which level you want to do. We have 2 plans. We've got the basic plan, and then we've got an advanced plan. Both are multi-line dialers. If you go to batchdialer.com/pricing, you get the whole scope of everything. There are some discounts if you do it like a yearly build monthly contract, but it just depends on kind of what you're looking for. Does Batch Dialer have a CRM? In a way, we kind of do have a CRM. It depends on what you want, essentially. So yes, we do have contact management. We do have customer relationship management. You can score leads. You can say if it's a hot lead, you can talk about the call attestation. It keeps all your contacts in line. But if you're looking for something that's super robust, we do integrate with quite a few different platforms: HubSpot, Salesforce, depending on how large or small your business is. The company URL is www.batchdialer.com. And if you are interested in looking at the pricing, it's batchdialer.com/pricing. If you are interested in learning more about caller ID reputation, it is calleridreputation.com. That is already baked in to Batch Dialer Advanced. So it would be more of just if you wanted to learn. They've got some great content on their site. The next question is from Shane. How specifically are numbers from Batch Dialer labeled to prospects? So as far as I understand, the majority of them are going to be labeled just as the phone number, unless you go in and do what we keep preaching: register, right? If you register as your business, then it will show up as your business when you call them. So again, it's totally free to register your phone numbers. So yeah, I definitely recommend doing that to all of them. Joe asks, can you drop voicemails with your dialer? Yes, you can. You can create personalized voicemails that you can drop with your dialer. Will dialer automatically rotate through my numbers with the basic plan? Yes, they're both multi-line dialers and it will rotate. There's different algorithms that you can use. There's behaviors that you can use. So if you want to dial, the first phone number for each contact, and then rotate to the second number for each contact. There's different dialing algorithms that you can use within our dialer. Lester asked, what is a predictive and a preview dialer? That's a great question. A predictive dialer is one where you call multiple lines at once. You have a really high volume contact list that you need to get through as quickly as possible. So it will dial multiple lines at once until somebody picks up. A preview dialer is when you have a situation where you need to understand who the customer is. For example, like a collections agency, right? They're going to need to understand who the person is that they're speaking to, maybe how much they owe and to what credit card or whatever. So you can view that ahead of time, get all the information, and then manually hit call, and it will call that person. So it takes a little bit longer. It just depends on what your strategy is. You guys, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We really absolutely appreciate it. Please join our community. Please join our dialer masterclasses and challenges that we have, because they are super, super helpful. We get such great feedback on them, and they're just going to teach you a lot, both about the product and our industry. So thank you guys. And thank you, Ricky, for joining us. You've been absolutely wonderful as our panelist today.
My pleasure, Amy. Thank you. Thank you all.